The root problem that we're dealing with right now as a country of our matters to do with corruption and the government's accountability is rooted on this thing that I'm about to say right now, and that is overrepresentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to yet another amazing show of the Woke Convo podcast, where we keep it real, where we keep it woke, and we go get straight into it. But before I forget, yes, my good brothers and sisters, let's not forget to subscribe, like, share this with your friends. Yeah, tell a friend to tell a friend, and let's keep the engagement growing. You know how we do it here, so we're going to get straight into it. And today I'd like to discuss a few important and key matters that our country is actually suffering from. And one of the things that we really need to find a way to sort it, because it's the be all and end all, you know? Yeah, I believe one of the things that has quite contributed a lot to the situation we're in at the moment and the challenges that we're facing as a nation, as a country, Kenya, is the Constitution. And I remember back in 2010, yes, during the referendum, I voted no. I went against the Constitution, man. I was still not convinced. I had some very contentious issues that couldn't really let me swallow that thing, man. And I'm going to go through them in a few. Yes, I believe before I start, I remember my mom really voted in for the Constitution. My late mother, man, we would go back and forth arguing over this matter to do with the new Constitution and the issues I had with it. And I kind of understand where she was coming from, because majority of the people then, as I was a young millennial, the elder generation, Gen Z, Gen X, yes, was the thing that they really wanted to resolve within the government and within the challenges that we're faced with was walking away from a very all-powerful president. They wanted to numb the powers that the president had, the executive had. And by doing so, the Constitution really checked on that. And that's something that I would say it's a good thing. We kind of needed that kind of a thing. We didn't need to set ourselves up for having further dictators and more dictators along the way. But other than that, I had other issues that really weren't settling down with me, man. They were really concerning to me. I saw them as the deal breaker. I could have not voted yes for the Constitution with those things not being checked. And they're actually the reason why they're the root problem that we're dealing with right now as a country of our matters to do with corruption and the government's accountability is rooted on this thing that I'm about to say right now. And that is overrepresentation. The new Constitution was all good when it came to things that numbed the powers of the executive, but we had this thing called evolution. And evolution was quite a unique concept for us to try and adopt in our constitution. But if you were to compare it to the American one, you can easily see where we got the inspiration for what we had in matters to do with having governors and counties and senators and changing the whole system we were working with. We used to have just 8 provinces. And they had PCs and DCs in the districts, but all that was changed with the Constitution. And the biggest problem that I had with the Constitution, even at 2010, the biggest issue of mine was this matter of how the government's wage bill will be so swollen that we, the citizen, would really struggle trying to just maintain the government as it is. Because even then, there was a matter of the government's wage bill being too big. Yeah, the number of MPs that were representing every constituency and all that. Yes, it was quite an issue there. There was an issue there. And that problem was now brought full-blown proportions in the new constitution when it came now to devolving sectors in the country and having governors and and senators and all that. And for me, then I could clearly see this was what I was actually telling my mom, that yes, if you guys pass this constitution, it's us, the younger generation that's now coming into the working class, that's going to have to pay. We will be the ones paying for the for all the unnecessary expenses that we added in terms of representation. Why does a person in a certain region, let's say like Nairobi, we have a governor, we have an MP, we have MPs in several constituencies within the county, we have a senator, we have an MCA, we have a women rep. All those people are going to get their paychecks from my taxes. And I knew early on, man, that this thing is coming to bite us, and it's going to bite us hard. And even today, at least the only person I've seen that has been quite vocal on this matter is Eric Omondi. Eric Omondi has really tried to educate guys and quite paint the right picture, where you see, like, even in the America, the reason why devolution the idea of devolving into counties and instead of what we had works best is because a city like Texas, a town like a county like Texas is proportional to the size of Kenya. So you see, when you have a president now governing, or even a president governing over multiple states like that, you see, there's need for devolution. There's need for that chunk of representation from people from that kind of a region to be represented. But now you find a place here like Nairobi, the population within Nairobi, not only Nairobi alone, there's so many, even Kiambu County. Like, if you take a magnifying glass and check on what's really ailing us in terms of the wage bill that the government takes, that's quite a big chunk, is this issue to do with devolution. Clearly, if we were to resolve this matter, the amount of money we would be saving as a country is madness. Yeah, so I wish, this is part of my wish list that come someday, and hopefully soon enough, before we anguish in these issues that are killing us in our country, to do with the economy, is really, we need to rethink this matter of devolution. We really need to check it, because it's working against us so badly, Yani. Instead of us devolving to have more resources spread out the country, we are kind of going backward. And in terms of how the constitution was going to numb the presidency power, or the executive's power, in the process of doing so, this is what the constitution did. It gave rise to more snakes. It's like cutting out one head and two heads growing from where you've cut. You see, like from the neck, it's like cutting out a head from the neck, and you have two more heads growing from the neck again. You cut those two, you have four other heads growing. Like, it's that quite, I found it to be quite oppressive on that nature, because now, given even the struggles we are having right now of trying to reduce the wage expenditure from our government, is due to devolution. And we are completely overrepresented. You really, with the number of people that are in Kenya being the same size of the people being in Texas, and even the GDP itself matching, you can simply see the situation, what I am telling you guys, that, yeah, in this country, we are overdoing it. The constitution really didn't fulfill what I would have wished to see in matters of having a new constitution. That's why I voted no. I really rejected the current constitution. I like the matters that it deals with in terms of protecting human rights. It's quite objective that we needed to have such a thing, but in the what we are getting at the end of it isn't adding up. I remember even the president and the former president before him, Uhuru, all of them give excuses to the constitution to why they can't tackle corruption the right way. We had Uhuru tell us that the government is losing 2 billion every day, and he couldn't do anything about it. And in his defense, he was like, it's not his job. There are due processes that are beyond him, that are beyond his control. That's literally going back to how the Constitution was numbing the reach of the president and the executive, and them now hiding under that. To some extent, it's quite unfortunate for a country to have a president that is indeed overreaching in some matters and all powerful in a way. But also when I weigh these things, I see also a situation where you have a good president, maybe who's willing to do a lot of good, yet can't because of the red tapes around him, because of the limitations that have been set there. So you have a situation where you're losing instead of gaining. I wouldn't be quite advocating for the executive to have excess of power, but when I look at the situation, I feel we're still expecting too much from them. We're still expecting too much from Ruto. We're still expecting too much from whoever sits on that seat. And in that situation, if that be the situation, and there are indeed things that are above their control, you see, it's quite biting us back harder than we want. Yeah, we're kind of getting the worst exchange possible. Because yes, you're getting a less powerful president, yet that president cannot sort issues and matters that are candid in a country like corruption, only because there's too much red tape around them, there's too much limitation. And you see now it ends up being a tricky situation. I'd rather have a president who's here. I don't care. They can be overpowering. But I do care, but I wouldn't mind trading them having excess in power, but yet being more accountable to me. I don't know. If I can have a balance of that, yes, I would definitely pick that solution over anything we've had so far. I'd rather not have a president that is too powerful, but yet they need to be powerful enough to stop 2 billion from being stolen. It can't be that there's due process that is not in my control. The same thing we had with Ruto over the fertilizer scandal. He himself couldn't quite be the one executing these things, or I don't know, even if he could or he couldn't, you can't tell the difference when the defense goes back to what the Constitution states. And that is, yes, it's not the power of the executive to do some of these things. There's due process in the event he wanted to prosecute someone or fire someone for that matter. They can't just do it out of their own it's not something that is it's not an ammo in their disposal. It's not something that they can just do. There's a due process to it. And I find that thing at times works against us. Not even at times, for the repeat of the two regimes that we are having right now, from Uhuru to now Ruto, yes, that thing is not working for us. It's proving itself broken. Because you see, you have a president that can always decry inability or lack of the ability to cause change, and their defense is the Constitution holds me, restricts me from doing things that you guys would want me to do as the president. Yes, just my 2 thoughts on it, and that's another reason why I'd still stand on my ground. I don't support it. Yes, it's the ruling thing in our country, but to be honest, yes, those 2 things that we gave up are quite fundamental. They are affecting us, and they are part of the problem that we are having and we're dealing with right now. We have overrepresentation of power, and the executive power that we elect is limited in what they can do for us. I don't know if you guys are getting where I'm at. I'd rather be in a situation where I know the president that's coming in after 5 years, that president can cause the immediate change I want. Yes, I don't want them to have to come there, to go there and be like, I'm powerless. I can't fight this thing called corruption. That's just my 2 cents on that. Yeah, and another thing I would like us to talk about today is, as we said on the previous episode, if you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. It's up on YouTube, on my handles. Yes, and also on TikTok. I've quite shared it along the social media platforms. And one thing I discussed is the next government coming in has to be and has to, yani, this is a deal breaker. They have to be exclusively, their agenda has to be fighting corruption. We don't care about anything else. For me right now, I don't even want these matters of development. Don't promise me to build another stadium. Don't promise me to construct another road. I just purely want you to sort out these few key things that are affecting us. And major thing that can't be overlooked is corruption. Because I find it to be quite stupid for you to start to continuously fetch water with a bucket with holes beneath it. It makes no sense, because that's exactly what we are doing. We're trying to fetch water. We're trying to fetch money over taxes. We're trying to fetch money over all these levies that are put in place. We're trying to collect all this revenue, borrowing, going to an extent of borrowing. Yet there's this matter of corruption that's affecting us, that's causing us all the losses that we are experiencing. So, corruption has to be the priority. Corruption has to be the big thing. I don't care what you do in whatever party that represents you, but in your first agendas has to be to address this thing, this beast, this thing that's been torturing African countries, not only in Kenya, and even not only in Africa. Corruption is a major thing. We need you to first of all sort this for us. We need to be able to completely rid ourselves of this swamp called corruption. And for us to do so, any other regime coming after Ruto, because I don't believe the current regime is not going to face this problem. The current regime doesn't really care about this problem. And that's the problems we are having with it. We really need, for the next, the only promise that should matter to us right now is that, yes, in the first 100 days in office, I will sort out this corruption issue. We will start doing proper audit on our loans. We start putting the math together. But there are a few things that we need to keep in mind, my good people, because fighting corruption is not an easy feat. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be difficult. And one thing you need to understand with the magnitude of what we're trying to handle here, we can't focus on everything else. I can guarantee you, for a government to get into power and really drain this swamp of corruption, one of the things that's going to be obvious is that they will not be able to launch projects. They will not be able to launch new projects. They will not be able to build these great roads that you're seeing out here. I even heard the ambassador from US on live TV telling us that you see all these beautiful things you're seeing in Kenya. She was purporting that exactly they are not the things that you're seeing around the country. They're like the construction of the expressway. Those things, you're seeing them because of the loans the government has borrowed, not because of the tax revenue that the government has been collecting from its citizens. So if you hear a foreign power speaking like that, it generally tells you that your economy is not in a situation where it can provide you with some of these things. And instead of taking your citizens for this wild madness of, what do I even call this? Of crazy suppression, of crazy oppressiveness, instead of putting your citizen over that madness, they'd rather not have that expressway. But their taxes are not depleting every other thing they're trying to generate in their soil. But you're not coming after every shilling that they're making with oppressive taxes. You'd rather have not that road. You'd rather have not that stadium. And a problem with all this is not that even these things can't be constructed using our revenue. The revenue that the government collects from us in taxes and licenses and all that the government does. It's not that it can't, it can. But the problem is the other people still trying to put as many of the funds as they can into their own pockets. So the priority has to be corruption. We have to prioritize this. This has to be our thing. We have to be like, no more. And I know in doing so, we're going to face a lot of opposition. We're going to face a lot of forces against this thing. Because, mind you, the beneficiaries would not imagine it being the day for them to stop. Yeah? So we really have to prioritize fighting corruption. Yeah. And something I'd like to tell you guys, moving forward, even as we head to more campaigns, as the government has decided, as the president has decided, that's what he's going to do for the remainder of the years, for the remainder of his term. I don't think he's going to serve us in any way, but buckle up. There's going to be a lot of campaigns moving forward. And every time, I'd just like to tell you something. Every time you hear a politician or even a presidential candidate or even anyone coming to you promising you that they will do a lot of constructions, that they'll construct this road moving forward from now, when you hear a politician tell you that he's going to construct a new dam, that he's going to construct a new road, that he's going to construct new stadiums, all you should be hearing is he is committing himself to continue doing corruption, to continue siphoning the public funds through these shady projects that they want to launch. That should just be what you understand as the citizen. Every time they come and tell you that they're going to construct a road for you, that's a promise, a guarantee. This person is telling you, once you put me in power, I'll make sure that I commit to corruption. And we want to drain this thing called corruption. I'm not saying that they shouldn't promise us anything, but we need to put a hold and be realistic, as even Ruto has been telling us every now and then that we don't have money. That the country, that we adopt austerity measures, that we don't have money. If he himself is coming to the admission of that, I believe him as far as that is concerned. Not that I believe him that we don't have money, but we don't have that money to continue doing endless projects that can't be quite audited the right way, that are used as a means and a source of corruption. That's what I'm saying, guys. So don't be fooled this time around. I'm so sorry if you are fooled by Ruto. But for me, I proudly tell everybody, I was so against this guy. I think I have this thing in me that I don't know what to call it. Maybe it's a superpower. I have an easy time learning a person's character, seeing through BS. And I remember even having countless debates with friends around me who are kind of buying into the lies he was selling. And I was telling them, this dude cannot, and the incoming government doesn't have a choice. It can't really start building more, because Uhuru and the way he launched devolution all over the country, all the projects that the government started kicking off the ground from, and we were borrowing money for them to be done, there's no way an incoming government was going to come and do the same. And I stand correct. To date, guys are saying Ruto is only launching projects that had been launched because the money that was spent to launch all those projects wasn't realistically adding up. That was a lot. It was quite a chunk of money being poured to the government's projects. Yet, we didn't even have it. We were not collecting that money in terms of taxes. Where were they coming from? They were getting loans. And on these loans they're getting, that's how usually corruption is performed in Kenya. We have all these projects that are overpriced. Yes, I've even seen a situation where pens were being sold at 4,000, a normal biro pen. That's exactly what you're dealing with here. So I would definitely tell guys that as we fight this corruption. It's not going to be easy. We have a long way to go. And in the process, let's not continue lying to each other that we need big projects in our country. We don't. We need the hospitals to be reliable. We need you to be able to go to a public hospital and be treated in the right manner and with a doctor who's qualified. We need our kids not to always have to go to a private school. I'm telling you, even a poor family in Kenya, given the chance, they would not let their kid go to a public hospital. A public school. You can imagine if education is a problem, at the lower levels. If hospitals are a problem, just these two things are too big for us to even dare overlook. Like, we need them sorted fast. And the only way they'll be sorted is if corruption is quite phased out in our country. And for corruption to be put aside, it means we have to pause on projects, do inquiries and proper auditing on where the money has been vanishing from, arrest the contractors, arrest the government counterparts that put these things in motion, that gave this that siphon money from these projects, and put them behind bars and recover that money and those assets by all means possible. That's what we need to do. We can't, and as we do that, there's very little room for you to construct a new road. There's very, 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 almost none room for you to start doing other projects. And also, audit the new projects while you are investigating the old ones. That wouldn't work. I can just tell you that would come falling down on itself. We can't be able to do that. The only way we're going to push through this is now stop on development. For some time, not forever. We need to stop. And once we stop on development, do a deep inquiry of where all these funds are vanishing from or vanishing to. And from there, now we can proceed with collecting and taking back what had been stolen before we start thinking of another whole idea of how many roads we need, how many projects, stadiums we need. I don't know if you guys are getting what I'm saying, but it's quite the situation. Yeah. I would genuinely say what we would expect from the incoming regime. Like, what I personally will be voting for is a person who's willing to fight corruption. We don't need you to prioritize development. That can take a back seat for a while. We need corruption completely sorted. We need our offices to be reliable. We need our hospitals to be reliable. We need our education system to be reliable. We need it to go to an extent of competing with private entities, of which we can. And these people are paid well. And the job security is amazing. So how are you telling me that these things cannot happen? So, man, we have a long way to go, but I believe if we believe we can achieve, yeah. It's been a pleasure. I'm also going to remind you again, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's keep the engagement growing. Let's grow this channel, yeah. Other than that, I'd like to wish you a wonderful time. Cheers, and see you on the next one.